What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today we got a reaction to AC/DC's classic Highway to Hell, brought to us by a friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Carl. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below or the patron link on the end screen. We could not do it without him. We've been running all of the Bon Scott AC/DC albums, so this is the last one. I'm doing something on this channel. You noticed on the title, Revisited, that I've never done before. I'm revisiting an album that I've already reviewed. Now, we reviewed it, didn't react to it. So the old school reviews, if you're new to the channel, you're going to know what I'm talking about. But if you've been here for a while, you will. Trey and I used to review albums, so we'd listen to them like 10 times and then just come and do a summary of them. Those are actually much harder to do than this, even though the videos are much shorter. But I decided to do this because that was like 4 years ago. I don't even remember. I remember I liked it. I don't remember anything about it. Obviously, I know the title song, but I don't remember anything about it. And my perspective's totally different now because we have 2,800 videos up. I've listened to a lot more music. And now that I've run the Bon Scott in totality, I decided, like, let's go to the culmination, right? Let's go to Highway to Hell. So that's just a little background on here. And if you want to look at those previous reviews, there's an AC/DC playlist down below. Just click on that or just search AC/DC in the box up there and you'll see them all. So let's do some background. The background's going to be a little more extensive. I'm not going to sit here and talk to you for 20 minutes on it, but because this is the last album with Bon and some things that went on, some big changes. Sixth studio album released in July of 1979. It's the first of 3 albums produced by the great Robert John Mutt Lange, and is the last album featuring lead singer Bon Scott, who died on February 29th, 1980. Went to number 8 in the UK. Became AC/DC's first LP to break the top 100 in the US. And if you've been following along with me, you realize that has been quite the journey, right? Eventually reaching all the way to number 17 and propelled the band into the top ranks of hard rock acts, which they've never left since. It's the second highest selling AC/DC album behind Back in Black, which that's the next album. But Brian Johnson's on there. Obviously, Bon Scott is not. And that's one of the highest selling albums of all time. And I've actually never heard it. This one's generally considered one of the greatest hard rock albums ever made. 7 times platinum. That means 7 million copies sold, boys and girls. No album would do that nowadays, but we're in a different land with streaming. So let's kind of rewind here and see how we came about doing this album. By 1978, AC/DC had released 5 albums internationally and had toured Australia and Europe extensively. In 1977, they landed in America and with virtually no radio support, began to amass a large live following. Their most recent album, which is one I didn't do because I'm not doing live albums, the live If You Want Blood, had reached number 13 in the UK, and the 2 previous to that, which are up, of course, 1977's Let There Be Rock and 1978's Powerage, had seen the band find their raging blues-based hard rock sound. Although the American branch of Atlantic Records had rejected the group's 1976 LP, Dirty Deeds, Done Dirt Cheap, you can go watch that video if you want that story, it now believed the band was poised to strike it big in the States if they would only work with a producer who would give them a more radio-friendly sound. But the problem with that is they weren't just dropping a producer. No. All of their albums had been produced by George Young and Harry Vanda. According to the book AC/DC Maximum Rock and Roll, the band was not enthusiastic about the idea, especially guitarists Angus and Malcolm Young, who felt a strong sense of loyalty to their older brother, George. Yes, George Young was their older brother. Now, the producer Atlantic first paired them with was South African-born Eddie Kramer, best known for his work as an engineer for Jimi Hendrix, but also for mega bands Led Zeppelin and Kiss. Kramer met the band in Miami, but by all accounts, they did not get along. Jeff Barton quotes Malcolm Young in Guitar Legends magazine, quote, "Kramer was a bit of a prat. He looked at Bon and said to us, 'Can your guy sing?' He might have sat behind the knobs for Hendrix, but he's certainly not Hendrix. I can tell you that much." Former AC/DC manager Michael Browning recalls in the 1994 book Highway to Hell, the life and times of AC/DC legend Bon Scott, quote, "I got a phone call from Malcolm in Florida to say, 'This guy's hopeless. Do something. He's trying to talk us into recording that Spencer Davis song, Give Me Some Lovin', I'm a Man,' whatever it was." Browning turned to Zambian-born producer John Robert Mutt Lange to step in. Lange was best known at this time for producing the Boomtown Rats' #1 hit Rat Trap and post-pub rock bands like Clover, City Boy, and Graham Parker. In 1979, singer Bon Scott told Ram magazine, 3 weeks in Miami, and we hadn't written a thing with Kramer. So one day we told him we were going to have an off day and not bother coming in. This was Saturday, and we snuck into the studio, and on one day we put down 6 songs, sent the tapes to Lang and said, will you work with us? The band had also signed up with new management, firing Michael Browning and hiring Peter Minch, an aggressive American who had developed the careers of Aerosmith and Ted Nugent. So the recording was a much different thing for our lads, right? There's a much different thing. With Mutt Lange in place as a producer, they started recording in North London. It started on March 24th, 1979, and ended on April 14th. In his book, Highway to Hell, Clinton Welker writes, the band virtually moved into the Roundhouse Studios in Chalk Farm, spending the better part of 3 months there. So not just the recording, but like spending time there, right, to rehearsing stuff. That to start with was a shock to AC/DC, who had never previously spent more than 3 weeks on any one album. Sessions for the albums were 15 hours a day, day in and day out for over 2 months. They were grueling. Songs were worked and reworked, end quote. Lang's no-nonsense approach was appreciated by the band, whose own work ethic had always been solid. In an article by Mojo's Sylvie Simmons, Malcolm Young stated that Lang, quote, liked the simplicity of a band. We were all minimalistic. We felt like it was the best way to be. He knew we were all dedicated, so he sort of got it. But he made sure the tracks were solid, and he could hear if a snare just went off, end quote. In the same article, Angus Young added, quote, he was meticulous about sound, getting right guitars and drums. He would zero in, and he was too good on the vocal side. Even Bon was impressed how he could get his voice to sound, end quote. Tour manager Ian Jeffrey, who was present during recordings, recalled, quote, Mutt took them through so many changes. I remember one day Bon coming in with his lyrics to If You Want Blood. He starts doing it and he's struggling, you know. There's more effing breath than voice coming out. Mutt says to him, listen, you've got to coordinate your breathing. Bon was like, you're so effing good, blank. He calls him a female body part. I'll leave that out, boys and girls. You do it. Mutt sang in his seat and did it without standing up. That was when they all really went, what the effing hell we dealing with here? End quote. In AC/DC Maximum Rock and Roll, they write that Lang, a trained singer, showed Scott how to breathe so he could be a technically better singer on songs like Touch Too Much and would join in on background vocals himself, having to stand on the other side of the studio because his own voice was so distinctive. The melodic backing vocals were a new element to the band's sound, but the polish Lang added did not detract from the band's characteristic crunch, thereby satisfying both the band and Atlantic Records at the same time, which is hard to do. Oftentimes, the record company pushes you to do something, and you don't really like how it sounds, right? One or the other is unhappy, so it's crazy that they're both happy here. Lang also taught Angus some useful lessons, instructing him to play his solos while sitting next to the producer. Mutt said, quote, sit here and I'll tell you what I want you to play. Angus was like, you effing will you? But he sat next to Mutt, and Mutt didn't force anything on him. Just kind of pointed at the fretboard and here, this, and hold that. Now go into that. It was a solo from Highway to Hell. It was fantastic, and that really stood them all to attention on Mutt, too. He wasn't asking him to do anything he couldn't do himself or getting on their case saying it's been wrong in the past. Nothing like that. He really massaged them into what became that album. Now, on this album, remember, Bon Scott's writing all the lyrics. Bon Scott's lyrics on this album deal almost exclusively with lust, sex, and partying on the town. In his 2006 band memoir, Murray Engelhart reveals that Scott felt the lyrics of songs like Gone Shooting from the previous Power Age were, quote, simply too serious. The album was ranked number 199 on Rolling Stone magazine's 2003 list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. It was 200 on the 2012 revised list. The 2010 book, the 100 Best Australian Albums, had this in the top 50. Back in Black, by the way, was number 2. All tracks are written by Angus, Malcolm, and Bon, because Angus and Malcolm are writing the music to it. All right, if you've never been on this before, the music will not be in the video, but if you want to hear the music along with my reaction to it, check out the Vimeo link below. If you know all the songs, just want to know what I think, hang out right here. Let's go to the album opener. A song that I can confidently say a lot of people know. Highway to Hell. It actually has 1.5 billion, yeah, with a B, streams. Lead single, only 56 in the UK, 47 in the US, right? One of those songs that kind of marinated and grew. The title and lyrics reflect the nature of touring constantly and life on the road. The highway that inspired the title, Canning Highway, connects the Perth-Kinnawawa Freeway to its port, Fremantle, and was home to many of Bon Scott's favorite pubs and hotels, including the Raffles Hotel. It's by far the album's most famous song. From the outset, Atlantic Records hated the idea of using the song as the album title, with Angus later telling Guitar World, quote, "Just because you call an album Highway to Hell, you get all kinds of grief. And all we'd done is describe what it's like to be on the road for 4 years like we'd been. A lot of it was bus and car touring with no real break. You crawl off the bus at 4 in the morning and some journalist doing a story, he says, 'What would you call an AC/DC tour?' Well, it was a highway to hell. It really was." So that's what you get. People see this album, especially back in the day, oh man, it's satanic. Because they don't listen to it. They don't even look at the lyrics. They just want to judge. It has nothing to do with Satan or hell or anything else. In the January 2018, as part of Triple M's Ozfest 100, the most Australian songs of all time, this was ranked number 40, ranked 258 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. And it is part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's 500 songs that shaped rock and roll. That is obviously a very, very prestigious list to be in. Bon said, "I've been on the road for 13 years. Planes, hotels, groupies, booze. They all scrape something from you." And that's how he came to play this song. Obviously, later on, he dies a little bit after this album's released. It takes on new meaning, and people push into this saying it was a premonition. He knew he was going to die. Listen to the lyrics. That's not what he's saying at all. All right, I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Carl. All right, the title track, Highway to Hell. I don't know if there could be a much more perfect rock and roll song. The guitar solo on there from Angus is fantastic, and it's not too long. Right? Everything fits into a little 3-minute, 28-second package, and Bon has never sounded better. You got the call and response sort of with the Highway to Hell. They're just coming in there with it. There is a little, verse 2, there is a little mention of the devil, and there's no stop sign, speed limit. Nobody's going to slow me down like a wheel, going to spin it. No one's going to mess me around. Hey, Satan, paying my dues, playing in a rockin' band, because, everybody thought rock and roll was from the devil. Hey, mama, look at me. I'm on the way to the promised land, which would usually be God's promised land. Woo. There's a little dichotomy there. And some people find a dichotomy or a duality between this song, Highway to Hell, and Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. I mean, you're really searching when you're trying to, I get it, whatever. But, obviously a fantastic song that goes without saying. Next up, we got Girls Got Rhythm. All right, the second single, Girls Got Rhythm. Bon sounds great. The guitar work is right on. The backing vocals, you definitely notice more. In the past, Malcolm's done them, but I think Mutt was probably on this one as well. The song itself, it's about a hot girl that Bon's addicted to. That's the best way I could put it, boys and girls. You can read the lyrics if you want. Now we got Walk All Over You. All right, Walk All Over You. This song's 5 minutes, 10 seconds long. It doesn't seem like it. I mentioned this on previous AC/DC albums. Like, their songs fly by even if they're longer. They don't have a ton of longer ones, but even if they're longer, it doesn't seem like it. The lyrics are interesting because Walk All Over You, he basically, it's about lust and sex and his obsession with this girl. But Walk All Over You sounds like he's going to walk all over her. But really, he's telling her in there that he'll do whatever she wants because he's obsessed with her. So kind of a little play on words there. Phil Rudd's drumming, especially at the start, started out slower, but in this track was really good. I don't mention his drumming a lot. It's good. I don't have to mention it usually, but thought it was really good here. Obviously, the guitar riffs, it's going to be a repeating thing, right? The guitar riffs and then Bon's vocals. They figured out the formula now, and Mutt is going to take that to the next level. You don't know about Mutt Lange's producing. Just watch the Hysteria reaction I did a couple years ago for one of our other patrons, Evan David. I go into all about what a technician and a master technician Mutt Lange is in the studio, and you can see it here. Now we'll go to the third and final single, Touch Too Much. 29 in the UK. It was performed by Bon and AC/DC on the BBC music show Top of the Pops, of course, which is just fantastic. Just 12 days before Bon's death. The band had earlier recorded another song with vastly different words and music entitled Touch Too Much, but it was never released. It would eventually see the light of day in 1997 when it was included in Volts, part of the band's Bonfire box set, so it's not the same song, FYI. It wasn't performed in concert until 2016 because they auditioned Axl Rose, who was subbing in, of course, for Brian Johnson. Axl said this was his favorite song, and he asked Angus, can we play this one? And Angus told him, no, we never learned it, because they never attempted to play it live, so they had to go in and learn it. I just thought that was a cool story. All right, Touch Too Much. Once again, lyrics I'm not going to get into. It's kind of self-explanatory. This girl was a lot to handle, and Bon enjoyed it. I mentioned in his lyrics throughout this journey, sometimes they're too juvenile, and then he kind of got away with that. He could really write, and I think he got back into just the easy low-hanging fruit here on this album is what we're going to have, which is fine because let me tell you something. This song has Mutt Lange written all over it. The harmonies in the chorus where it changes up, that the chorus sounded a little Def Leppard-y, right? A little Hysteria album, which is all the way up in 1987. And the harmony on those backing vocals and the call and response and the guitar work, it's a really slick song, and I mean that in the best kind of way. Now we've got Beating Around the Bush. Beating Around the Bush. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. You can kind of imagine, but I think she's probably cheating on him, and that's sort of what he's talking about on here. But he almost doesn't care because he's got lust for her, right? He's down with it no matter what. The musicianship again, like they're firing on all cylinders. They really have been the last few albums, but I mean they've really pushed into it here, and I think it's Mutt's production, right? I definitely think it is. But that finishes out their traditional side one, and also, if you're a classic Fleetwood Mac fan, I'm talking Peter Green Fleetwood Mac fan, the guitar riff on this, now I'm not familiar with this, but I came across it everywhere, is from Fleetwood Mac's Oh Well Part 1 from 1969. And they didn't give credit for that, but if you're a Fleetwood Mac fan, you probably noticed that. I don't know that song, so I didn't notice it, but let's go to side 2, which will kick off with Shot Down in Flames, which is never good. Shot Down in Flames, that is the quintessential sound of AC/DC that I know. I don't mean to keep belaboring it, but it just sounds so much different than their previous albums. And the chorus, it's all about the chorus, bringing that guitar riff in there and that strong drumming, and then Bond is really bringing it, and Mutt understood how to do that so well. The story of the song is, Bond's being shot down in flames. If you're a guy, if you're a girl, it's probably happened to you before, right? You just kind of got to persevere. He goes into this place and asks this girl, he sees her across the room, and the jukebox says, "What's the going price?" So probably not the right thing to ask. And then later on, he goes to a singles bar and he's trying to hook up with this girl. And then a guy comes over and tells him to back off. She's mine. And then Shot Down in Flames. I really enjoyed that song. Now we got Get It Hot. All right, Get It Hot. He's going out with this girl for the night on the town. They're going to get it hot. He drops a few sexual entendres in there. But I like the pre-chorus. Nobody's playing Manilow. What a dig it. The great Barry Manilow. Nobody's playing soul and no one's playing hard to get. Just a good old rock and roll. So shortest song on here by far, 2.5 minute song, and just, quintessential great guitar work. Bond's vocals are fantastic. We got 3 songs left. We got If You Want Blood, in parentheses, You've Got It, which is named after their live album that came out the previous year. If You Want Blood, You Got It. Really good song. Kind of all the ingredients shaped together, right? Great guitar work, great drumming by Rudd, Bond's vocals, the call and response harmony choruses. The phrase itself, I found this interview they did with the Australian version of Rolling Stone. And they said the title came from, for the album, for the live album, which of course they got this song and ran with it. The title came from a gig we did in America, Day on the Green Festival, or day one of the Green Festival. 80,000 people turned up. Angus once recalled, we were on at 10:30 in the morning and most of us hadn't even been to bed. This guy from a film crew got a hold of me and Bond and asked what kind of show it was going to be. Bond said, "You remember when the Christians went to the Lions? Well, we're the Christians." Then he asked me and I said, "If they want blood, they're going to get it." And you see that in verse 2. It's animal living in a zoo animal. The blank that they toss to you, feeling like a Christian locked in a cage, thrown to the lions on the second page. So if you want blood, you got it. But really good song. All right, we got 2 songs left. I've been looking forward to getting to this song because of the research I did. We got Love Hungry Man. Asked in 1998, what's the worst record you've ever made? Angus replied, there's a song on Highway to Hell called Love Hungry Man, which I must have written after a night of bad pizza. You can blame me for that. Usually an artist won't even come out and say that. So kudos to Angus for saying it. So let's find out what we think. All right, Love Hungry Man. Look, man, I don't think it's horrible. I know a lot of fans hate this song. There's some others that really love it because it is so much different. You still got the great guitar work. Bond still sounds great. Cliff Williams, able to really show some bass work on this song. Usually Cliff is a necessary guy kind of back here in the background, but really showed and was able to shine on through that because the guitar work wasn't as heavy during the verse parts. But, it's not horrible, man. It's not horrible. And we're to the last song, and by far the most controversial song, Night Prowler. Song ends with lead singer Bon Scott muttering, "Shazbot Nanu Nanu," the catchphrase used by Robin Williams and Mork and Mindy back in the 70s. I always wondered what that meant. I didn't think it meant anything, but I didn't know it was from this. Now, there's a controversy from this song, and I'll tell you what I think about controversies in songs when I'm done telling you about it. In June 1985, a highly publicized murder case began revolving around Richard Ramirez, who was responsible for more than 15 brutal murders, as well as rapes and attempted murders in Los Angeles. He was nicknamed the Night Stalker, and he's a huge fan of AC/DC, particularly this song. Police also claim that Ramirez was wearing an AC/DC shirt and left an AC/DC hat at one of his crime scenes. During the trial, Ramirez shouted, "Hail Satan," and showed off the pentagram carved into his palm. The incident brought extremely bad publicity to the band, whose concerts and albums were suddenly campaigned against by parents in Los Angeles County. On VH1's Behind the Music on AC/DC, the band claimed that while the song had taken on a murderous connotation by Ramirez, it's actually about a boy sneaking into his girlfriend's bedroom at night. Now, we'll judge from the lyrics what it's about, but it really doesn't matter what it's about. I mean, you see right here, I'm wearing a Bruce Springsteen shirt. So if I walk outside and, I don't want to say anything horrible, but let's just say, well, I mean, I will. Let's just say I walk outside and kill somebody walking down the street. Does that mean that because I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan that you should go, and boycott Born to Run because that was my favorite song and it made me want to get out of here? And so I thought the easiest way to do that was to kill the people in front of me. I mean, it's a ridiculous example, right? But that's what this stuff is. Bands can't help. Now, there's certain music calling people to end their lives and stuff like that. That is a different story. And that's something they should take a little more responsibility for, the artists, but also the record companies for releasing it. But that's not what this is, man. That's not what this is. What is AC/DC supposed to do about some guy that 6 years later goes on a killing spree and says he's inspired by this? I'm like, come on, man. All right, let's kind of dig into the lyrics. A longer song. Let's finish off this album. All right, Night Prowler. Much more blues-based than any song on here. We've got some blues-based stuff and on other albums, but this was, I thought it was really good. I thought it really showed off that side of them. All the musicianship got to shine through from all the guys. Look, this song may be about a guy sneaking into his girl's room, but he's sneaking in there to kill her. This song is about, I mean, in my opinion, I don't think it's really all that highly debatable, right? I mean, verse 1, somewhere a clock strikes midnight and there's a full moon in the sky. You hear a dog bark in the distance. You hear someone's baby cry. So painting this kind of menacing, like scary scene. A rat runs down the alley and a chill runs down your spine. And someone walks across your grave and you wish the sun would shine because no one's going to warn you. No one's going to yell attack. And you don't feel the steel till it's hanging out of your back. Now, that could be a metaphorical stab in the back, but as this thing goes on, I'm your night prowler, I sleep in the day that will call in response. I'm your night prowler, get out of my way, watch out tonight. I'm the night prowler when you turn out the light. Look, it seems to me like it's about murder. Does that mean that if you hear this song, you should want to go out and kill someone? And then if you do that, then it's AC/DC's fault? Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. Just like if you watch the show on TV, any cop show, any murder mystery, you're going to go do that? Like, it's ridiculous, man. I thought this is a really good way to end the album. And, unfortunately, a really good way to end out Bon's career because this is the last thing you ever hear from him. Now, he does go on to the next album, Back in Black, but supposedly only played the drums, ironically enough, in a couple songs on demos. And then he lost his life in February of 1980 when he was at a party and he was drunk, and so a friend of his took him out and let him lay down in the backseat of his vehicle to sober up, and then the next morning found him unresponsive and he's choked on his own vomit. A lot of Hendrix parallels here. And I guess the moral of the story, guys, if someone's really drunk, don't leave them alone because tragedies like this happen. But that's a story probably for another day in that Back in Black album. Now we get to my favorite tracks. It's easy. 5 of them are my favorite tracks. This last song, Night Prowler, If You Want Blood, You've Got It, Shot Down in Flames, Touch Too Much, and it's got to be Highway to Hell. I mean, one of the best rock songs of all time. Now we're going to get my overall score. This album doesn't pretend to be, lyrical genius in depth. It's about hooking up with girls and, maybe a killer there at the end and getting shot down in flames. But this album's fantastic. Like Mutt Lange, I know I've been belaboring it, but it's important because if you don't understand production, it's important. The previous albums were good, right? But Mutt on this kind of dials in the vocals and brings them to the forefront, dials in the harmonies, which is something that was really enjoyable there and catchy. And then the guitar riffs and everything. Just kind of took that production that was good from George and Harry and just made it great. And you can tell this is a fantastic album. I'm going to give it a 9.01 first listen. It is the culmination of our Bon Scott catalog. They saved the best for last. But let me know what you think of this album down below. I know some diehard AC/DC fans. I see them mention on other reviews that I've done that that the album, that whatever I'm doing, whether it's Power Edge or whatever, is their favorite album. But this one for me, it's fantastic. I don't know what I gave it last time. I didn't go back and watch it review because I might have had a totally different feel on this. I am going to go watch it now. Well, not right now, but soon, because I'm curious how it's changed or if it's changed. But like I said, let me know your favorite tracks below. Let me know where this ranks for you in the Bon Scott discography for them. And also, is Back in Black better than this? Because that's their two like high point albums according to sales and to most critics and fans. So which one of those is better? I'm just curious your thoughts if you're a longtime AC/DC fan. If you haven't already, give it a thumbs up. It helps in the algorithm. Super appreciate it. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Go check out the other AC/DC and whatever else you like. Thanks again to Carl. And until next time, guys, I will see you.